Welcome back to the Sega Guys channel, Sega and Sonic fans. Previously I talked about Sonic the Hedgehog on the Sega Master System and Sega Game Gear, collectively called Sonic 8-bit and assumed by many to be the same game. I concluded that they really are quite different. In this episode I'm going to do the same for its sequel, Sonic the Hedgehog 2, a game very different in style and tone to pretty much any other Sonic game released that era. But how different are the Master System and Game Gear versions? Whereas Sonic 1 for the Master System and Game Gear came after the Mega Drive original, Sonic 2 came first to the 8-bit platforms, landing on the Master System in PAL territories on the 16th of October 1992, over a month before Sonic 2's day. As such, it's a markedly different experience with no borrowed zones from the 16-bit Big Brother. This is likely why, despite it being the debut of Tails in-game, he's restricted to the ending and opening sequences, making his playable debut exclusive to the Sega Mega Drive game. While the 8-bit games themselves are very different to the 16-bit tentpole release, they are similar to each other. But how different are they? Join me as I take a look. When analysing Sonic 1, we found that many stage layouts were radically different. All 8 special stages, half of the jungle, bridge and sky based zone acts, the entirety of the labyrinth zone and the final boss battle were all different. With over half of the game being different, my opinion was that it is indeed a different game, albeit sharing many of the same assets. Is that true for the sequel though? Let's start with the main difference, which will factor into pretty much every aspect of this comparison: screen resolution. From the intro, title and act cards to the in-game perspective, the smaller Game Gear resolution 160 by 144 compared to 256 by 192 on the Master System has a profound effect on the experience. We'll get into how as we walk through the game. Interestingly, before we go back to journey through the whole game act by act, Sonic's sprite is identical in both games. There are very slight differences in colour. Sonic's shoes are more red on the Game Gear version compared to the more tan colour on Master System, but unlike the redesigned sprite in the first game, here he's identical. Going back to the start, we immediately see differences. There's the Sega Choir on startup on the Game Gear, but only the standard BIOS on the Master System, with no such startup if you're on a Master System too. The differences continue on the intro sequence. On Game Gear, Tails is running alone at first against a dark green sky, with Sonic and Robotnik slowly chasing. Robotnik grabs him first and flies off with Sonic in pursuit. On Master System, Tails is already held captive by the Doctor. Sonic appears and gives chase, replicating the last few seconds of the Game Gear intro. The sky in the Master System version is also light blue, giving it a distinctly different feel to the Game Gear version. You'll also notice that the music is different too. On Game Gear we get the scrambled egg zone music from the 6th area of the game. On Master System we get a different theme, that is actually played on the title screen of the Game Gear. More on that in a moment. Worth noting at this stage is that, just like the first game, I'm playing both of these games emulated at 60Hz for a fair comparison. As a result, PAL veterans will feel that Sonic 2 on the Master System looks speeded up here, with aspects like the music sounding a little bit wrong. 60Hz on SMS Sonic 2 also creates a lot more slowdown, like the game was never meant to be run this way, because it probably wasn't. The result is that it does still play at the same speed as the Game Gear version, but it isn't the true PAL Master System experience. Anyway, let's go back to the title screen. It's the same on both systems, more prominent on Game Gear due to the lower resolution, albeit the portable version does have the title screen music backing it. On the Sega Master System, it's deathly silence. Hit the start button on either console and you're thrust into the title card. Emulation caused some mild graphical corruption here on Game Gear that isn't here on real hardware, I did check, but it's the same title card, albeit more cramped on the Game Gear screen. The first zone, Underground, 2 words, not one, and nothing to do with the strange cartoon featuring Sonic's family band, Sonic Underground, is a very different opening stage for the series, filled with reds, browns and general less energetic colours. It's a very odd way to start the game if I'm honest. Into the action though, and the first thing you may notice is that Sonic starts off more to the left hand side of the screen on the Game Gear version. That's because in the Game Gear version the perspective is dynamic. If you turn the little critter around, the camera moves to give more space to the way that Sonic is facing. Aside from that, there's only one difference in this act. The section with the extra life is structured slightly differently. When playing, I even managed to finish the acts in about the same time on both consoles. Act 2 continues this theme. It's 99% the same, but there are just two changes. There's this spring which is missing on the Game Gear early on in the act, and there is a slight shift in the emeralds location at the end of the stage. And the same is true for Act 3, it's all exactly the same right up until the boss. Now the boss on the Game Gear game is infamously harder than on the Master System. On the console version we get a large play area and Sonic dodges the bouncing bombs until they hit the robotic insect creature called the Pitmaster at the bottom. On Game Gear, this play area is smaller, the bombs as a result seem larger and you have far less time and space to react and move. The best tactic I found was for Sonic to jump just above the boss as the bomb is about to land and then move back into the safe position. Otherwise, it's like playing a game of Russian roulette trying to guess the speed and trajectory of the obstacles. So, Underground Zone is pretty much identical, aside from the boss area being an absolute pain on the portable. Sky High Zone Act 1 is an interesting one as well. Once again, it's completely identical, and once again I finished the acts in about the same time. There is one difference, and that is the bug that is present on the Master System version where you can walk through the wall at the bottom of the pit. Now, it's worth noting that the bridge on the Master System was actually removed in a later revision. Aside from that though, everything is exactly the same. And that goes for Act 2 as well, 100% the same. The only difference, once again, coming from that revision which simplifies the layout on the SMS version, but the release versions use exactly the same map. Act 3, same again, apart from the usual boss differences. The Hyoko Master is a pain in both versions, but I found them much easier on the Game Gear since the smaller arena lets Sonic hit them faster before they're actually able to launch an attack. Zone 3 is the Aqua Lake. Guess what? Act 1 is exactly the same again. Exactly. Spotting a theme here, aren't we? There's no difference at all in this game's water stage. The extra lives and ring placements, for example, are identical in both versions. The only difference that I found was the presence of this air bubble at the end of the act on Game Gear. Act 2 though, we actually see a major difference here. In Act 1, the water is reflected by this dithering effect, which is really odd actually, given that Sonic the Hedgehog 1 on 8-bit systems managed the water effect absolutely fine. Act 2 though has Sonic underwater for the entire act's duration. Mostly. On Master System you begin underwater. On Game Gear the act starts with the water rising, which changes the colour palette entirely. This effect on the Game Gear gives the stage an entirely different aesthetic and makes it seem as if it's a completely different stage entirely. But the only difference in this game's largest stage is that the one and only Power Sneaker item box in the game on Master System is replaced with a ring box on Game Gear. So overall, yes, it looks different, but Act 2 by level layout is exactly the same, and Act 3 is again the same. I even die on the same enemy lobster in both versions. The only difference is, once again, the boss, who is actually quite interesting. You defeat the Balance Master in this boss fight by jumping on the balloon that he blows up to toss at you. Jump on too early and he'll catch you on his nose. Too late and he'll toss the projectile at you. On the Sega Master System version, you can absolutely trounce him by just standing next to him and waiting until he's vulnerable. If you try this tactic on the Game Gear, he will kill you instantly. He is much more aggressive on the portable and he has additional attack patterns to navigate between his balloon blowing vulnerable periods. With that done, that's about half of the main game done with very few differences between them. That continues with the zone that I love and hate in equal measure, Green Hills. I love that 8-bit version of You Can Do Anything over the verdant green visuals. This feels like it should have been the first zone. Until you get to Act 3 and you realise why it wasn't. Anyway, the first two acts, they're exactly the same. Let's not dwell on it. Everything is in the same place, even the Chaos Symbol. Act 3 is one of the most horrendous stages in the game and a merciless difficulty spike, no pun intended. Here, with no rings, as per every 8-bit Sonic boss stage, you have to navigate a series of platforms and springs to pass huge spike pits. It is infuriating. I always maintain that these act layouts are completely different. You can get by fairly easily on the Master System version, there's a few deaths, but you learn the layouts quickly. On the Game Gear, with its restricted view, I died again and again and again and again, over and over. Every jump feels like a leap of faith, especially since the layouts feel so different. Except they're not. Once again, they're identical. I even overlaid the problematic section from the Game Gear game over the top of the Master System map. The Game Gear version has the darker sky, but you can see that they're identical. From this we can glean two things. One, the restricted resolution of the Game Gear game really does kill parts of the game, with you unable to slow down on the last set of springs on the Game Gear version of Act 3. And number two, screw you Aspect for developing this crap. Anyway, once you pass that, there's some mild differences in the boss arena, once again to accommodate the Game Gear's tiny play area, but aside from that, it's all the same. Gimmick mounting is the same too, both acts. Act 1 features one major difference, a missing wheel at the start, forcing you to use the spring. I did think that Act 1 on Game Gear was also missing the minecarts, but it is there, I just didn't see it because of the restricted field of view. Amusingly, the smaller screen also breaks the platforms in this section, which look like twisted silly straws. When one of those moving platforms move out of the screen space on the Game Gear, it respawns completely, making this section another irritation. Act 2 though, the same, right down to the Chaos Emerald and this obnoxious enemy placement. Act 3, again, the same, no differences aside from the perspective, even the boss behaves identically, though these platforms being impossible to see while jumping is a real pain. I'm not going to waste much time on the Scrambled Egg Zone, it's the same, from the platforms to the pipe mazes and the spike traps to the enemy and ring placement. Even the boss is largely identical. That's because Silver Sonic works the same across both versions. Mostly. The only difference is that the Game Gear attack window is a lot shorter, even against the sped up PAL version of the game. You have to be really fast to hit him. The arena size though is comparable on both versions, as the Master System version has a surrounding wall that is visible, so it's actually the boss fight with the least amount of differences. When you get to the Crystal Egg Zone, a zone that you can only access when you have collected all 6 emeralds, again, both acts are exactly the same on both platforms. Now some platforms and obstacles are tougher on Game Gear because of the resolution, such as these moving wheels, but aside from that, the level layouts are absolutely identical. Now the final boss does differ in one key way. In this fight you enter a room with Robotnik's machine and he'll launch all manner of energy and electric attacks at you. Your only sanctuary is to hide in the tubes surrounding the area, and when you pop out you can hit Eggman before jumping back in. The difference is that on the Master System you can emerge from exits at the top, bottom and to the left. On the Game Gear, the left exit is removed for some reason, taking away an option for attack and making timing a little bit more difficult. That said, beat him though and the game is done. The escaping Robotnik seems to have shrunk between games, or maybe he's been hit by a Goomba or something. Either way, the sprites, they're weird but they're the same, and the ending is also the same, apart from one key difference: the music. The music has consistently been the main difference between these two experiences. We highlighted the intro and the title screen. What I haven't mentioned yet is that the boss themes are different between the two versions as well, with different arrangements all the way through. Ultimately, aside from the resolution, the differences are largely small and superficial. Music differs, but makes very little difference to the whole experience. The intro differs, and for that matter the level select screens do too, but they're merely window dressing, much like the 3 or 4 alternative music arrangements between versions. What really matters, the gameplay and stage design, is 99% identical. This is a stark contrast to the first game, where they were about 40% identical in terms of layouts across the board. Here, every stage shares exactly the same design. The only real difference is the Game Gear's resolution, which has not been properly addressed here, whereas the first game actually optimised stage design for the portable device. This seems insane given it should have been the lead platform, as it was more popular worldwide than the Master System was at the time. As a result, we have one version that is severely hindered by screen resolution. So, is it the same game? Well, yes. Unlike the first game, it's exactly the same game. Perhaps there's a clue in the box art. Whereas Sonic 1 had completely different covers for each version, for Sonic 2, it's the same artwork on both consoles. Sonic 2 8-bit is rightfully a collective term here. However, this makes the decision for Sega to persist with the Game Gear versions in Sonic Collections even more baffling. It's the same game, so why give us the version that has the view cropped as if we were playing with horse blinders on? Playing these games back to back also reminded me what a markedly inferior experience this is to the first Master System game, with some sloppy design in both versions made worse by the Game Gear's screen resolution. It was this game that convinced my siblings and I to plead with our parents for a Sega Mega Drive, given how it wasn't even comparable to the Mega Drive title of the same name. Still, it's an interesting entry to the Sonic series and one that should still be experienced, but even though it's the same game on both platforms, please stay away from the neutered Game Gear version and choose the Master System version every time. Unlike the first game, there's absolutely no reason to play both. I did so here, so you don't have to. Anyway, that's all for the video today. I do hope you've enjoyed it, and hey, maybe you disagree with me, maybe you enjoy the Game Gear version. Let us know your thoughts on Sonic the Hedgehog 2 in the comments below, and if you've made it to the end of the video, thank you so much for watching, and if you enjoyed what I've done here, give us a like and a subscribe, as that really helps the channel. And until next time, this has been Dan the Mega Driver of the Sega Guys, and I will see you on the Sega side.